Hello everybody, how you doing? This is something a little bit different today. I've wanted to make this video for a while now, talking about something I've been thinking a lot about regarding the next Xbox, and regarding how I think Microsoft's going to approach essentially backwards compatibility and what they've teased as forwards compatibility and a few other things. You can probably tell from the title of this video already. This video is basically about whether Project Scarlett, when it finally arrives, will play whole new games that won't run on previous Xboxes, or if we'll see maybe, just maybe, a move to more like an iPhone App Store type ecosystem where we have games that are independent of platform. So you'll buy your Xbox game and you'll be able to run it on maybe your Xbox One, your One X, and your whatever Project Scarlett is called at the end of the day. Essentially what I'm saying is that I think when the next Xbox comes along, we're probably going to see it become, rather than a whole new console, another member in the Xbox One family, which is something I would really love to see, and I'd like to talk a little bit about why I think this is coming. Now, this is a different type of video for me. I'm going to try not to make it too rambly. I got my notes here. It's going to be a little formal, but hopefully I can communicate to you everything that I think Microsoft has put out there that leads to this direction, and why I, personally, am pretty happy, having just bought an Xbox One X, to see the direction they're going. It's what I'm hoping for, and it's what I think they're going to do. Let's get into this. So, first of all, I really think that that's going to be the model. When Project Scarlett comes out, it will be new hardware, it'll be more powerful than the Xbox One X, it'll probably be more powerful than any Xbox ever released, because they can really push the boat out. But I think what we'll see is them pitching it as a premium Xbox console rather than the next Xbox. We might see Xbox One S support drop and the Xbox One X become the median model, but these days the gap between new console hardware generations is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and I think we'll probably be able to see games that will run on all three Xbox consoles, but definitely the Xbox One X. Why do I think that? First of all, this is very much in line with what Microsoft have been talking about for a while now. A couple of years ago in 2017, when Xbox One had been out a little while and they were adding backwards compatibility with 360 games, Albert Pinello from Microsoft basically said, "We care a lot about compatibility, we have a huge effort around compatibility, and that's not just backwards compatibility. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know that we care a lot about compatibility, and in this day and age, people have shifted to caring more about their community and their apps than caring about the piece of hardware that they're on, and we've just moved with that." What he's essentially saying there is, people want the platform to play everything they own. They don't want to just keep upgrading hardware forever and ever and ever and think of that as their single dominating force for upgrading. They want a platform to work with the software they own. Now that only speaks to going forwards and consoles being able to play older titles, but if you think about it, they've put so much effort lately into, you buy an Xbox game, it runs on your Xbox One, it runs on your Xbox One X, it probably runs on your Project Scarlett with enhancements, and it's all the same code base with different tiers depending on which device you play it on. So it's in line with what they've been talking about. But there are kind of other reasons for this too. I think what will really seal the deal is what benefits this will offer for other publishers too. We saw a real tough transition when the PS3 and the 360 started to phase out. We saw publishers having a really difficult time with how they were going to keep an audience transitioning smoothly and maximize their sales when half of their customers were on previous generation consoles, half of their customers were on next gen consoles. Particularly if you look at a company like Ubisoft, which had a real trouble with the Assassin's Creed series. Black Flag, very successful game, sold particularly well, but was a little difficult in reviews because on previous generation consoles people were waiting for the next generation. On the next generation, it didn't sell as well as they hoped because then it was old software. Combined, it sold very well, but it was a difficult transition period. And that's why you saw them rush, I think, to release Assassin's Creed Unity the year after, pushing that game forward, releasing it before it was ready, and actually releasing alongside another Assassin's Creed game on the previous generation of consoles, Assassin's Creed Rogue, that just got pushed out to die. Two full major Assassin's Creed titles coming out on two generations of consoles, when the previous game had just been a multi-platform release. Clearly, publishers don't necessarily find the transition period from one console to the next to be all positive. There's a lot of difficulty. Yes, it lets you sell bigger, brighter, more beautiful games with new graphics, but you're always leaving a section of your audience behind for that transition period. If we move to a system where the new Xbox is not necessarily a completely new platform, but just an improvement, these manufacturers only have to make one game. Rather than Ubisoft having to sell a PS3 and a PS4 Watch Dogs, they can just make Watch Dogs. You buy it on one console, you play it on both. And then when you upgrade to hardware, you already have an existing library, which means from a console manufacturer's point of view, they've got a ready-built audience that already owns a selection of games. And we've only just arrived at the point where that would be technologically possible. Now, there are some potential criticisms for this area. Obviously, there's the feeling that, well, how will they encourage people to buy their games? If you don't need the new Xbox to play Xbox games, how will people actually be persuaded to upgrade? But if you look at it, both Sony and Microsoft have tested this ground already with PlayStation 4 Pro and with Xbox One X. This is not a totally new idea. You can already play every PlayStation 4 game and every Xbox One game on a base system. You don't need an X and you don't need a Pro. But both of those consoles have been surprisingly successful for Sony and Microsoft. Perhaps not as successful as the base model. There's still variations of the consoles, and being more expensive, they're niche products. But being more expensive, they also have much higher profit margins. They don't need to sell as many of them to break even, and people have bought them. You know, the PS4 Pro is pretty popular. I own an Xbox One X and I never thought I would, and I like it. They've done the groundwork on this. And what they found is that people will buy a new console even if you don't need it to play the game. And then if they maybe just err on the side of maybe retiring the Xbox One S and making it so you have to have an Xbox One X, they'll still get people upgrading to more expensive hardware. It just won't necessarily be the most expensive every time. It'll introduce maybe a sliding scale, a window of compatibility you have to be in. They've tested this already. They've seen that people will buy consoles that they don't need to play the games just because they want hardware upgraded. And if you already own some games already for that system, that's going to make people a little bit more eager to upgrade. And there's evidence that Microsoft is leaning in this direction. We already know, for example, that Halo Infinite, which is coming pretty soon, is going to be available on Project Scarlett as well as Xbox One. Now, this could just be a simple case of releasing 2 discs, as we've seen with games like Watch Dogs or with other transitional titles after a new generation, but if that's the case, this would be the first time Microsoft has ever done this with a Halo title. Both Halo 1 and 2 exclusive to the original Xbox for a long time. Halo 3 only released on the 360, not on the original Xbox. Halo 5 only released on the Xbox One. We have not seen a Halo title released across generation like that. Now, it could be a case that they're doing a dual release on this particular game, because otherwise you're going to upset a lot of people who only just bought an Xbox One X. But I don't think so. I think we're going to see Halo Infinite released as a single disc playable on multiple systems. And that kind of takes us to the other reason I think this is pretty likely. The Xbox One X is not an old console. Moving to a system of tiered releases where we release smaller upgrades more frequently is an interesting move for the industry. It's a change from how we've released console hardware in the past, and it's a bold move that has really played well for Sony and Microsoft. But it's not a pattern that can continue if compatibility doesn't increase. If we don't see games still released for PS4 Pro and Xbox One X after the launch of new consoles, nobody's going to buy these superior models next time, because nobody's going to buy an Xbox One X believing that it's only going to have a 2 to 3 year life. And the performance leap is not going to be that difficult to keep Xbox One X support there. If you actually compare the Xbox One X to the base Xbox, you see that not only do we have a faster CPU and GPU, but there's a significant increase in system RAM too. Which means, while the Xbox One X was designed to run Xbox One games at 4K, if the next generation comes along, you're probably going to see that console able to compete if it maybe compromises by reducing resolution to 1080p or even 720p. Yes, you'd lose the Xbox One X's much shouted about 4K support, but you'd maintain that future-proofing through the system. And it looks like the capacity's there. The Xbox One X is sitting at a huge increase in RAM, and you know, just to say it again, what's the point in releasing the most powerful console ever made if it's obsolete in a very short period of time? It would be a very poor business move, and it would really threaten their ability to do this in the future. we know that, in a sense, Project Scarlett is going to be an extension of the Xbox One platform because it's going to be compatible with all accessories and all software from the Xbox One. The only way that's really achievable is if you're operating with like-for-like operating systems. And it would be almost foolish not to go that similar without maintaining compatibility in both directions. But at the last minute, Microsoft could get cold feet and pull a greedy. Who knows? But there we go, that's all I have to say on this. Hopefully you found this video useful for some of the supporting evidence for where I think this is going. And I could still be wrong. But I'm placing my bets. And I think when we see Project Scarlett announced, we'll see that it is a third member of the Xbox One family. Or fourth, if you count the S as a separate one, which I don't. Alright, I hope this was useful to you. More than that, I want to know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think I'm right? Everybody loves to hear that. Do you think I'm wrong? Let me know. If you've seen something that you think contradicts what I know, I would love to hear it. And I'm going to get out of here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.